Next on our speaker slot is Greg O'Grady, and I had the pleasure of meeting him in person last November at the CSA, and I think I saw you at breakfast every day. So it was always enjoyable starting my day with your smile. And Greg, please take it away.
Well, I feel feel more relaxed now because I'm not that tech savvy, so I'm very blessed to have to have been able to actually access the StutterFest site, and I'm also very appreciative to also have a technical assistant with me today, and this is Christina, and Christina will be working my slides tonight. It is tonight in Newfoundland. It's 10:30 p.m. And just let the group know a little bit about Christine. Christine is also a main member of the Some Stutter Law production team. Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Christine. So the topic for my presentation is a $64 question. Is the quest for fluency similar to living a lifetime struggle of walking an emotional, psychological, physical, and spiritual tightrope of stuttering, sanity, and insanity? Now, this is the question that I've been asking myself for many, many yesteryears, and I still ask myself the same question. Next slide, Christine. So what attendees expect from this presentation. And first of all, I would like to thank all of the attendings attendees to take the time to attend this presentation. But anyhow, so what you'll be expecting is no answers, lots of questions, lots of $64 questions, and to be able to say it loud, to say it loud. So a $64 question, who ever thought jumping from the frying pan into the fire onto another tightrope of stuttering, sanity, and insanity quest from fluency? Not me. Now, why I'm saying that, I retired from the city of Toronto in 2017, and I worked for the city of Toronto for 35 years, and my whole focus within the city was actually to really sort of, survive the city. So sometimes I'm really sort of surprised that I've actually made it to retirement as a person who stutters. And then mind you, while I have taken speech therapy through the Toronto Speech and Stuttering Institute, and many thanks to the Speech and Stuttering Institute because they laid the foundation for giving me the courage and confidence to be here tonight to be talking to you. However, like us all, there's been ups and downs based on one's life's challenges, the highs and lows of challenges. So there has been some relapse, and but like everything else, there's always a lot of emotional component when one relapses. So years ago, before his speech therapy, slide, Christine. Many years ago, I asked myself a $64 question. If there is no cure for stuttering, then why explore stuttering? Now, this is a fair question, a fair question. And the reason why, next slide, Christine. The reason why that I was asking that question, and because I've always felt and feeling trapped by my stutter, and like it's a sense of impending loss of control. And we all know what this frightening feeling is when I'm about to enter a severe block or a severe prolongation, repetition. This is impending loss of control. Next question. Next slide, Christine. Hello, I just want to be able to say my name. And this is one of the biggest challenges that I not only have, but many of us have as people who stutter. And so what I do now, I'm also the chair of the Newfoundland and Labrador Stuttering Association, and I'm the host of Some Stutter Law. And as a reminder of my yesteryears of running away from stuttering and developing a lot of camouflaging, self-sabotaging behaviors just to mask my severe stuttering, that I introduced myself on my live radio show blocks and to whenever I'm talking to somebody, I always introduce myself as my name is Greg O'Grady. I am a professional stutterer who specializes in covert stuttering. Now I say that I am a special. My name is Greg O'Grady. I am I'm a professional stutterer who specializes in covert stuttering. As a constant reminder of how I spent many years trying to mask my stuttering. And we all know as people who stutter can permeate and control one's life, impede our hopes, our dreams, our wannabe aspirations, impede our sleep, our career choices. Stuttering is on our minds 24/7. Stuttering can make us emotionally, psychologically, physically, and spiritually ill, control our family and friends, and affect our personal and professional relationships, decisions, and behaviors. Next slide. So, my struggle was trying to mask and hide my stuttering. It was like this constant being on the tightrope of sanity and insanity, especially when I was a covert stutterer and wondering when I'm going to be experiencing this impending loss of control and whether or not I'll be able to say the next word or laugh. So this impending loss of control facilitated asking these $64 sanity and insanity fluence questions. And much like us all, and I'm not painting everybody here with the same brush, but when we're on a tightrope, when we sort of are struggling, trying to find our own journeys of how to manage our stuttering, it's like being on a sanity and insanity fluency uh, tightrope. And you wonder, when are you going to tip over? When are you going to, how are you going to maintain your sanity, or are you going to lose it? So this impending loss of control facilitated at me asking again and again these $64 questions. So it's as if that I'm talking about myself here. I spent so many years trying to chase the F word, and we all know what the F word is: fluency. And looking at management options, what are my options to help me manage my stuttering and to be fixed as well? The F word also stands for fix. When I started to take speech therapy, I sort of I wanted to be fixed. And that was it. I wanted to be fixed, ensure that all my issues would be resolved. But when we're looking for management options, it's like standing in front of a smorgasbord of stuttering management options, the dishes. And when we're looking for a speech therapist or some sort of a program to help manage our stuttering, it is this quest for fluency. And many many of us for our quest for fluency is like some people uh, seek free speech may be chosen the route for managing speech communication. For others, modification or volunteering stuttering or reducing fear and apprehension or enhancing self-esteem may be the chosen route. For others, participating in a self-help group may be the chosen route. And for others, courageously forging ahead, ever hopeful, may be the chosen or imposed by circumstances rude. So he's saying it's almost like we're standing in front of a smorgasbord, a buffet of fluency options. So which one is best for us? Is- Again, we're standing on this tightrope of fluency and insanity quest for fluency. Next slide, Christine. The next slide, Christine. So just a glimpse of a platter of sanity and insanity tightrope, $64 quest for fluency questions. Now, many of you will laugh here that when I was preparing this presentation, there are so many of my history, past, present, ask myself the very $64 questions that I came up with 64, and this is just a glimpse. Now, some of the questions I have here, as I was saying, because I'm looking at the time here, I only have about 20 minutes because I want to leave some time for questions if there's any. But won't be able to ask you uh, these $64 questions because it's not enough time. So I just highlighted. I've also separated these questions under various headings like internal speech, stutter fluently easier, acceptance, stutter management, and authentic speech, masking, and gaps and deficits in services and mental health. So I'm just going to read out a few questions now. Don't worry, I'm not asking you to answer these questions because, as I was saying, I have lots of I'm just sharing my $64 questions with you, but I'm hoping that you leave with your own $64 questions.
So if I could just jump in real quick, Greg, you have
Sure.
extra time, so don't cut anything short. Give it all to us if you have the time. You've
Oh,
got plenty of time extended past your allotted time slot.
oh, do I?
You've got extra time, yes. So
Do
go
I not
for it.
do I not feel special, Tom?
You are special, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry for the
Yeah,
interruption.
that's okay. Thank you very much, Tom. Yeah. So I'm going to read off some of my questions. And Tom, let me know then if I have a few more minutes to ask. Just there may be some questions. So these are the questions, and I felt it was important to at least come up with the number 64 questions as opposed to uh, just to balance it up from 64 to $64 questions. So Christine, the first internal speech, the number one question: what is fluency? Uh, Many yesteryears. Oh, I'm sorry. Just scroll up a bit more, Christine, up to towards the top. And just above the top of the internal speech, there is yeah. No, on page one, just up at the top of the page. There you go. Yeah. So a very good friend of mine, Professor Larry Smith, just to add some spice here, he said when I was talking to him about my presentation, he came up with this saying: first, to say the F word I dare is like a cup of fresh coffee and gives a chuckle, but also wisdom. And I mean, it's so true. We really have to laugh at ourselves as people who stutter, but when we're chasing the word fluency, you know, it's laughable, but it's also wisdom. So a few questions from the internal speech area. Number one, many yesteryears ago, I asked myself a $64 question: if there is no cure for stuttering, then why explore treatment? Second one, if there is no cure for stuttering, then why not call it a day, throw in the towel, walk away, and succumb to stuttering, which I did. And I paid the price mentally and emotionally because if you're running away from stuttering, how can you develop any sense of identity or in individuality when you're always running away and hiding and masking? Number three is struggling with internal speech as a big intermediately factor. And we have to be very careful with our internal speech, what we say to ourselves. because we listen to ourselves. Number 4, do I need to be aware of not what I say, but of the impact of a real process of my internal speech? Number 5, do I need to be aware that a huge focus in reality involves my thoughts and sentences that I say to myself because once it's recognized, there is all kinds of hope to modulate that language in order to reduce my struggling. Number 6, is there is there much more to me than can be overlooked when just looking at one dimension, my stutter? Should I change my perspective and try not see stuttering so much as a problem and start focusing my life on so much outside of me? Then it would not leave as much time for concern about my disfluency and internal speech. That's a mouthful here. Should I just stutter and should I just stutter and come to hell or high water? Continue on, Christine. Then I looked at I thought it was some stutter fluency easier questions. You see, these questions I've been asking myself over the years, and, and even to this day, I still ask these questions. What is fluency? That's one of the key $64 questions. What is normal and acceptable fluent speech? How do I learn to stutter fluently, easier, that will not interfere very little with communications? Number 10, is it more rewarding to stutter fluently, easier, and fun to be able to talk anywhere, even if I stutter? With the pressure of stuttering fluently or management of my stutter, will I have enough energy left to fully engage in and participate in life? When we're trying to learn speech targets and put them in practice, I mean, that takes a lot of our energies as well. And so sometimes it sort of takes away from fully participating in life. And then we come to the big A word, acceptance. Number 13. Does my tightrope of stuttering sanity and insanity, quest for fluency involve acceptance? If my tightrope of stuttering insanity and insanity, quest for fluency involves acceptance, does my focus on acceptance add additional pressure and absorbs my energy for getting on with life? Number 15, if my tightrope of stuttering sanity and insanity, quest for fluency involves acceptance, does my focus on acceptance add additional pressure and absorbs my energy for getting on with life? So it's this pressure for acceptance. It's a lot of pressure. Number 16, what is the difference between acceptance and self-acceptance? And acceptance and self-acceptance have not just shades, but fundamental operations as pressure on the self. Number 18, should all social and internal pressure be shaved, reduced, and eliminated where possible? Because that's right in the feedback loop that I see essential to understanding of stuttering. I stutter because when I'm distracted by or afraid of the thought of stuttering as essential truth. Number 19, should my tightrope of stuttering sanity and insanity quest for fluency, thus about acceptance, be modified in a major way? Number 20, is the heart of my problem the heart of my problem is that acceptance is not under my conscious control. Can acceptance be willed? If not, then why should I add to my tightrope of sanity and insanity quest for fluency just by adding pressure to accept? Is trying to will acceptance definitely not like a hammer to knock things in their right place? Again, why I stress by adding pressure to accept. 23, how do I find a speech language pathologist fit? As a person who stutters, should I focus on the honor of being a stutter warrior in life and to appreciate myself? Does the struggle for stuttering acceptance add additional pressure to stutter's quest fluency, sanity, and insanity tightrope. So as I deal a lot with this pressure of acceptance. And how do I define stuttering acceptance? 27 is in the journey and appreciation of one's lived experience with stuttering. What's important is an appreciation of one's stuttering lived experience of acceptance. See, and this is where I come in here. I'm not too keen on the word acceptance. I prefer appreciation of lived experiences. And so I feel that if I appreciate my lived experience as a person who stutters, then I feel that is a definition of acceptance for me. And then look, I'm flipping now. Uh, can a person who stutters embrace and accept one stutter? That's question 29. 28, can a person who stutters dance in harmony with one stutter? 30, 30, are there any benefits for authentic speech, my stuttering? Can stuttering be both a nemesis and a blessing? Stutter management. Question number 32, is the better philosophy management? Trying to make progress over time, putting in some effort and gaining credit to myself. When there is progress without worrying about ups and downs. 33, with all these years of research into the cause of stuttering, do we know anything yet? Does this lack of knowledge and lack of cure for stuttering add to my tightrope of stuttering sanity and insanity quest for fluency struggle? Number 34, how do I deal with the emotional and psychological, physical and spiritual periods of relapsing? And this is always a challenge when we were when we're trying to learn a lot of speech targets, and all of a sudden we relapse. We have to deal with the train work feelings within. 35, is covert stuttering a recognizable form of speech therapy and speech management strategy? Good question. 36, is becoming an overt person who stutters the answer? By becoming an overt person who stutters, am I succumbing to stuttering? By becoming an overt person who stutters, can I finally get off the sanity and insanity paper quest for fluency? Will I no longer want to mask my stuttering by becoming an overt person who stutters? Question 37. Can overt stuttering be considered a stuttering management program? Interesting question. What is the definition of a confident stutterer? Is there such a thing as a confident stutterer? 39. By succumbing to overt stuttering, will I join the ranks of an ableist? 40. As a person who stutters, how do I fight ableism? 41. Can ableism fuel mental health challenges of a person who stutters? And the other section, authentic speech masking. This is a biggie for me. And I'm saying I'm just sharing my thoughts through these questions through the group here. Question 42, is my stuttering speech that I have known since birth my authentic speech? 43, if stuttering speech is my authentic speech that I have known since birth, then why would I want to change my authentic speech? 44, authenticity is about being genuine, about being myself in the world. It's about not hiding behind a mask to please others. Authenticity means not abandoning yourself. Then if I try to fix my authentic speech, then am I abandoning my authentic speech and my true self? 45. If I seek professional speech therapy treatment and or seek other speech management strategies to correct my authentic stuttering speech, then am I masking my authentic stuttering speech? 46. By seeking speech therapy and other forms of speech management strategies to correct my authentic stuttering speech, am I adding additional emotional, psychological, physical, and spiritual baggage to my already overwhelmed and bewildering emotional, psychological, physical, and spiritual lifetime tightrope of stuttering, sanity, and insanity? 47. How do I discover or find any semblance of my authentic self. If I am continuously focusing on implementing learned speech therapy targets or other learned speech management strategies during my daily personal and professional activities. Am I continuously living in a state of angst, always wondering if my learned speech targets or learned speech management strategies will fail me? 48, always wondering when this feeling of impending out of control block will happen. 49, is there peace of mind and or compromise with stuttering? This is a key question. Is there peace of mind and a compromise with stuttering? 50, by asking these $64 questions, am I adding additional layers to my emotional, psychological, physical, and spiritual stuttering, sanity and insanity type of fluency? 51, what is social anxiety disorder? How do I know if I have SAD? 52, why do I feel the need to always apologize for my stuttering? 53, why do I need to overextend myself personally and professionally just to prove my worth as a person who stutters? What is the stuttering iceberg all about? 55, is there a therapeutic component to asking myself these lifelong, hard $64 questions? 56, by asking myself these lifelong, hard questions, are these questions needed to be asked in order to help with finding insight and understanding into how stuttering can impact one's life, expecting one's personal and professional life, decisions and behaviors, etc. 57. By asking these hard questions, can I find peace of mind and focus, tipping the tightrope in favor of sanity? Will by asking these hard questions motivate and inspire me to move forward with hope for a better tomorrow? 59. By asking these hard questions, will I eventually be able to dance in harmony with my stuttering, acknowledging, and this is important, acknowledging, accepting, and honoring that I stuttered yesterday, today, tomorrow. Will this realization bring me sanity? 60, number 60. Is our $64 lifeline tightrope of sanity and insanity, quest for fluency, dark and frightening and rabbit hole, also a necessary and a safe space? So was my rabbit hole also a safe space? Gaps and deficits in people who study programs and supports, and there's so many more. But why is the studying community and our families an underserviced, marginalized, and often excluded community in our province? And this is not only for Newfoundland either, I think it's globally. 62, why isn't there more healthcare providers who specialize in the mental health realm of stuttering? 63, why isn't the need for access to specialized intensive and portable treatment and services under the lens of government? Why isn't speech therapy for a person started covered under our province healthcare system? It's not in Newfoundland. So as a stuttering community, we are on our individual journeys exploring ways of managing our stuttering. We hope to eventually find our ways to stutter fluently. And to stutter fluently, one size does not fit all. I'm shocked that I went through these 64 questions, guys, and thank you very much, Tom. Christine, the next slide. So, as I was saying that, is there a compromise between quest for fluency, sanity, and insanity, stuttering type of struggle? Next slide, Christine. A lifetime asking, continuing to navigate and struggle with my $64 dark rabbit hole of stuttering and insanity tightrope quest for fluency has enabled me to, as I was saying at initially, next slide, to say it loud. My wish is that attendees continue to ask yourselves these $64 questions, to be able to say it loud, Next slide. I proudly declare I stutter. Say it loud. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Say it loud. It's okay to stutter. Say it loud. I no longer feel trapped by stuttering. Say it loud. I no longer apologize for stuttering. Say it loud. Next slide, Christine. And if you're asking where did this $64 question come from? It came from the brother B.C. Blackford. He was a Christian brother that was one of my teachers at St. Francis Central High School. Whenever he was going to ask students a question, he always said, I'm going to ask you a $64 question. Now we're going back a few years ago from high school. So anyhow, does anyone have any additional $64 questions? And it's, again, it's thank you all very much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for your presentation, Greg. Now let's move on to the Q&A and see if we have any $64 questions. I'm gonna look at the chat. Because I've got a hundred and I've got $128 worth of questions. Okay, so let's see. So we've got David Allen. Wow, Greg, a great talk. Perhaps you can ask a $10 question. 64 is too many for me at one time. Feel free to contact our community in Brisbane if you want. He's provided his email address. I love to chat with you in your group. I'm firmly on the therapy side, which has helped me and many of in our group, but I appreciate not all feel the same. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so I've got a $64 question for you, and it's something that I've never really thought about until I started dealing with the clientele in South Florida. Um, I ran across a retired guy, and he said that his stuttering returned. He said that after he was out of the arena of um, of speaking pressure all day long, every day, and now that he's retired, he doesn't he didn't really do that much as far as risky speaking situations. He said his stuttering has returned. So have you noticed a difference in your stuttering since retirement?
It's interesting because I've just finished reading this book, and this is a gentleman who is 80 years old. He was a professor. He held various important jobs, whatever. He said the same thing. Since he's retired, his stuttering hasn't returned as well. And I find that I've been doing a lot of thinking about that. You see, with me, Tom, since I've retired, I sort of jumped out of the frying pan into the fire because that's true. Because I was so caught up in trying to manage my stuttering and mask my stuttering with the city that I really didn't do as much work as I should have in focusing on the, the emotional component of stuttering. But also
Oh,
since I've gotten involved with within the global community, and I feel very blessed in many ways, and being like the host of Some Stutter Law, my own radio show now, and uh, the Newfoundland and Labrador Stuttering Association. You know, I've been finding it very challenging and very sort of challenging, and in many ways frightening as well because I'm also writing my memoir, and
oh, okay, okay.
I've been sort of doing a lot of dissecting and revisiting my life. So I'm finding that how studying has impacted me every aspect of my life. Now, but that has that has exacerbated my stuttering even more. So I find that it's a lot coming up, and but it's true that I've heard the same thing many for a few older people that since they've left their profession. Plus, I mean, you don't get as much opportunity to talk. But even with me, I mean, I have a lot of opportunities to talk, and this is when I'm forcing myself to do these talks.
Yes.
But even though I'm having opportunities to talk, I think we're dealing with a lot more. We have more time on our hands as well. and retirement is not for the faint of heart. So anyways, I thought this is a long-winded answer, but anyhow.
No, I find that that was a fascinating response. We have another comment in the chat. I think she might be a little biased. Christina says, "Great presentation, Greg!" Exclamation point.
Well, thank you very much, Christine. And she, so I mean, as I mentioned, Tom, to the group, that Christine is also a member of the Some Stutter Lab, production team, and
Oh,
she come up with some great ideas of we're moving to Some Stutter Lab.
okay. Okay. Um,
I have a
okay.
question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Emmanuel.
$64. It's a $64 question.
Yes, it is. It's something I've really been thinking about, and this concept about stuttering openly. Where you hear people talk about stuttering openly, and it's something I really don't understand because I've actually looked online for definitions, and I'm just wondering, do we have anyone who really started openly? I don't know what you think about that, like the concept of open stuttering or stuttering openly, because I've seen people who they claim they are practicing stuttering openly, but they pause, they hesitate, and they do all these things. Because I'm asking because with me, even as I was growing up, before even learning about stuttering or getting involved in the stuttering community, I I knew myself, and then I had some things that I used to do to help me, with my stuttering. And I believe as people are growing up with the experiences around, we adapt. So we use strategies. Maybe we may not have a name or know exactly what we are doing, but then we all use some strategies um, here and there. So when I hear people talk about stuttering openly, I find that uh, the concept is vague. The more I read about it, the more I get confused. And I'm just wondering, do we have anyone who really, really stutters with abandon, like without thinking about anything, just talking without pausing, without, I don't know if you get my question.
Mm. Oh yeah, definitely. So that is definitely a $64 question. And you know, um, it's interesting because on some sort of law, I ask this one question normally: do you consider yourself a competent person who stutters? Okay, and some of my guests say yes, others says no, and but you know I feel based on my history as being a covert stutterer, I spent so many years and years and years trying to hide my stuttering that it did a lot of emotional psychological damage to me. And so I feel that the key, and then remember, there's not supposed to be any answers to this presentation. But anyhow, I feel that it's so important, and this is Greg O'Grady talking here. It's so important that self-disclosure, I think, is so important because if you don't we all know what it's like to mask our stuttering, but it's a journey to get there. Okay, and I agree with you. I don't think I think we all have a tendency, whether or not we admit that we self-disclose. There's this temptation to word substitute, whatever. But I think, but this is also like normal or non people who stutter as well. So, yeah, so when all said and done, well, acceptance is the key of our stuttering, and can be a lifelong journey for a lot of us. But we all have our own definitions of self disclosure as well, self acceptance and self disclosure. So I feel that it's a journey, but To answer your question, it's okay to stutter. It's okay to stutter, and but you have to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to decide, am I being true to myself? And you have to ask, is stuttering my authentic voice? But I'm not sure if I answered the question, but it's okay to stutter.
That was a great question, Manuel, and I actually have ever thought about this because that was my latest contemplation this past week. It tends to be a word salad when people say open stuttering, being open about your stuttering. It tends to all be kind of confusing, and so I tried to come up with a term that would describe when a person does not pause, does not do a sentence starter, doesn't do anything to try to control to try to not stutter. They just, um, they just stutter without any intent to modify it at all. So at first I began to call it wide open stuttering, and I don't think that really got the concept outright. But since then, I think that what best describes the concept I'm trying to convey is unbridled stuttering. Imagine riding a horse without a bridle and without reins, and you're just arms up in a full
Mhm.
gallop. It's unbridled stuttering. It is not trying to get past the block, not word substituting, not pausing, not doing anything, but just letting that block just however long the block is, and not doing anything about it. The people that have said, "Yes, that's exactly what I do." When I talk to them, I notice little things that they do to try to get
Yeah,
around that stutter.
yeah,
So I've yet to meet a person that actually practices that in everyday life. Now they could do it on a podcast, they could do it on a Zoom call, they could do it whatever. Someone that goes out and does it on the job or someone that does it in business, I have yet to see that person. I don't think that, um, I think that that person is a unicorn at this point. I haven't
Mhm.
seen anyone that actually does that because I don't think that works. I think it
yeah,
quite works in real life. It's a great concept to talk about, and the people that promote that way of life, that type of thinking, usually stutter very minimally, and stuttering doesn't impact their life, or they don't stutter at all, and they're all behind that concept.
yeah,
But for those of us that where stuttering makes a difference, and I think that's most of us. I think that I have not met a person that practices unbridled stuttering.
yeah, yeah. So Tom, I agree with you because one thing that sometimes I think we all um you know, with all these discussions, there is one thing that we all agree on, and that is the well-being of the individual who studies. Is the person okay? Now, the thing I also have observed is stuttering. Also, it's physical. The blocks, the prolongation, the repetitions is tiring. The body,
Mhm.
you realize that it's tiring. The body reacts to it in a way. Whether you've done desensitization, no matter how much desensitization you've done, the tensions happen, meaning that there is something that the body is trying to, um, the body is reacting. Yes, that's exactly what I want to say. So for us to say that, okay, um, oh, I've lost my train of thought. Wait, it will come back. What was I even trying to say? I've
That's
lost.
okay. People
It will
talk
come
about
back. Yeah, when it comes back, I'll
openly
continue.
stuttering, and they practice that in real life.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. So because stuttering on its own actually has some effect on our systems because as you're having that block, the body is reacting, stress hormones are released and all that. I find it quite strange that um even how helpful is it? That's one thing I've been asking myself. How helpful is it to say that, okay, I'm going to do this, unbridled, as you mentioned, or wide open stuttering? Yes, it's ideal. That's what is supposed to be an ideal situation. But here we're also talking about physical manifestations. For me, personally, I'm not ashamed when I stutter. I don't care what the other person is thinking about me. But then I know it's quite exhausting. It's exhausting, and I don't like the way my body reacts, especially when the environment is stressful, like it's tensed. I just don't like how my body reacts. So naturally, my body would want to, you know, adapt and do all this. And that's where we pause. Even though you don't need an SLP to teach you that, you pause. Easy onset. There are people who've never attended speech therapy services all their life, but they know how to use easy onset. So I believe, just based on the fact that this is not something our body is used to, the body is not comfortable, I find it hard to believe. And as you mentioned, that there are some people who can actually do all this open stuttering when they are in a meeting like this, Zoom meeting, or on a podcast talking about stuttering, but in the real life, the question I ask myself is that in the real life, are they really, really doing that? Or is it just like, this an agenda, this an agenda, and because we don't stutter severely, or our stuttering is quite not that severe, is mild, we feel like, okay, this is something that we can do. So we expect everyone else to accept whatever works for us. And I find that problematic, even though I'm an SLP, I'm a person who studies, I read the literature, I read the research, I still have lots of questions because we really don't understand everything about stuttering. There is so much more that I'm sure in some few years to come, we will get to understand this, and they would realize that with all this banter and you know disagreements happening now, we realize that no, we're all wrong because science keeps evolving. The more we understand the condition, the more it keeps making sense. So for people, some people to just, to carry one idea and be like, this is how it's supposed to be because it worked for some. The fact is, I think one of the presenters this afternoon, Dr. Is this Snyder or something? The one who presented before Eddie presented.
Dr.
He
Snyder before
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Snyder. He made some statement which I found to be very insightful. And that is, even with stuttering, we really don't know what the etiology is, exactly what causes it. We've identified several uh, genes that are responsible for stuttering. And what I also understand, because I did a bit of molecular biology, cellular biology, depending on where in particular that thing is coming from, it comes with its own ways of manifestation. And that's one of the reasons why no two people start out the same. And if this be the case, it definitely means that we can have one treatment working for everyone. What will work with me, what I can use and will help me, may never work for the other person, no matter how we refine it, no matter how we polish it, because probably stuttering could have, subtypes, something we don't know. All we know is over stuttering, but these are not the real subtypes of stuttering. I believe there are types of stuttering based on what caused it, which gene is affected. But till now, we don't understand what it is. So it'll be very difficult to even make those arguments people make, like stutter openly, acceptance will help everyone. And I'm taking a class now, and we've been learning about traditions of knowledge production, and we got into disability studies. And there is this approach, I think it's very common in the UK. It's called the capability approach. And I figured out that the capability approach is what we as SLPs and as a stuttering community, that is something that we really have to embrace, because the capability approach does not really concern itself with the language, you know, the wording that is used to describe the thing. It doesn't really concern itself about with, the critical lens with which some people are now looking at traditional speech uh, therapy, because we have some people now who are just very critical of traditional speech therapy. They are just watching and trying to punch holes into it, trying to just
Mm.
deconstruct everything around speech therapy. And the question is, if you should ask them, okay, what is the solution? Then they say, just let people be. People need to be accepting. But then we don't live in that world now. We are not yet there. People work at places where they are not accepted. They live in communities where there is still stigma and all that. So for us to pretend as if we are living in like a world which is fully accepting of people with difference, that is, the critical approach. But then capability approach says that, see, we are all different. What matters is the well-being of an individual. We ask ourselves, what does this individual need to function? Whatever that individual needs, we make sure that individual has it. And that is paramount. If you go to person B, what does person B also need to function? So if person B needs uh, fluency shaping techniques, that's what person B gets. If person C thinks that, for me, my well-being depends on stuttering openly, that is what that person also gets. So we move away from the wordings, the language, acceptance, open stuttering, because I believe that these are words that people bring up, after some few years. Some researchers come up with some, fancy words. They push it out there and they form this block where they want people to understand that this is what this means. But these are just words. I believe in the past, Wingate, Van Riper, and the others, they also had these ideas. So most of the ideas we have now, I think, are not new ideas. They are just ideas being recycled, given new names, being refined in a way. Then it brings about all these divisions and all that. I'm sorry I've been ranting, but then this has really been on. I really been wanting to talk about these things, but
Keep
because of
on going. We have plenty of space.
okay, I think because
Well,
of the politics.
these are great $64 questions, because remember my slides, that my hope was that you would leave with asking yourself $64 questions. So a
Yeah,
success on my part. But but there's one thing I want to say, that I'm shocked with myself, based on my history of being a covert stutterer, for Greg O'Grady to say that I produced myself on the radio and live TV and everything. My name is Greg O'Grady. I'm a professional stutterer who specializes in covert stuttering. I would never have thought of saying that since I got involved in stuttering, in the stuttering community. I would never think of it. So I've done a 360 turnaround.
that's impressive.
It is, yeah, because I did everything to cover up my stuttering. It is all with no dressings. As I mentioned, that I'm in the process of writing my memoir, which should be in the next few months, and it's gonna be an eye opener. Hiding the manipulation.
Yeah, I
I'm
get.
surprised I'm still here to tell my story.
So once you started doing that, Greg, did you stutter more?
I'm sorry.
Once you started introducing yourself as a professional stutterer and you're an expert on covert stuttering, did you stutter more
Oh my,
after you said that?
definitely. Yeah, and people are shocked when they See, because I remember when, there's one person who stuttered. We're going back a few years ago now, and he said, "Greg, my God, is this you? You're letting it all hang out." And, Tom, it's the best thing I've ever did mentally and emotionally, because stuttering, we all know, sucks. Stuttering sucks, and it takes a lot of energy
Mhm.
to hide the stuttering. It takes a
Yep.
lot of energy to stutter. It takes a lot of energy to seek therapy. But we all find our own way of sort of dancing with our own stuttering.
Dancing with our own stuttering. I've
Mhm.
never heard that phrase before.
Mm. Well, you see, it's interesting. There's, during one of my conversations with an SLP who stutters, he said, "Greg, I have learned to dance in harmony with my stuttering from SLP. Dance in harmony with my stuttering." I thought it was beautiful. And also, Tom, we all know Mary Wood. Very well, we love Mary Wood. And during the conversation with Mary Wood, I shared with her, I used to, when I had an awful block or a bad period of stuttering, I said I had a train wreck experience of stuttering. She said, "Greg, instead of saying it or phrasing it as a train wreck, why don't you just say you had a wonderful period of stuttering?" It is beautiful, beautiful.
It changed your mindset,
It certainly did.
flipped
Yeah,
the script. Yeah,
yeah.
script, yeah. Wow, wow. Yeah, so Manuel, I just want to get back to what you were saying before. I've got a friend that's been around the stuttering community for decades, longer than probably anyone else. And when these concepts come up and someone starts talking about something new, this person will tell me, well, that was so and so talked about that in 1960,
Mhm.
or so and so talked about that in 1950.
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Dr. Fred Murray. It was amazing because I'd see him at the NSA conference, until he passed, and he would go down to the restaurant for coffee, and I found myself sitting next to him almost every day, having my coffee with him, and I remember him saying, he's like, "Tom, these kids saying that this is new stuff. We were talking about it 40 years ago."
Yeah, it's true. It's true, yeah.
That's what he said, and I will never forget, when he told me that, one of the turning points for me was when he said, "Tom, we can't control the fact that we stutter, but we can control how we stutter," you know?
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, I'm not, like, slapping my leg anymore when I block, or I wouldn't close my eyes when I blocked. I
Mm.
realized that I can control my reactions to the stutter. I'm still gonna block, but I don't have to do all these secondaries that I developed over the years. Yeah, that was a real turning point for me. But I thought that was funny, Emmanuel. That's what
Yeah.
it reminded me of Fred, Dr.
Mhm.
Fred, when you said that, you
Mhm.
know, stuff is getting recycled. I was at a
Recycled. Mhm.
Yeah. So I was at a conference one time. I was at a workshop, and they had, I don't know what they called it, but it was John Harrison speaking circles. And I went them afterwards, and I was like, this is John Harrison speaking circles, right? Oh, that was funny.
Interesting.
Yeah, it does happen, but I mean, some of these concepts are just timeless, and we need
Yeah.
to give credit to the originator of the concept. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true, Tom. That's so true, yeah. Because,
Yeah.
well, I always classify myself as a severe stutterer. So remember years ago that when anybody used to ask me my name, and unfortunately, I only had not only had the primary, but it had a second characteristic. If someone asked me my name, I would say, reach my hand. Look now, 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 look like. I would look at, can you imagine the look on the listener's face when they used to hear me saying that? Look down, look now. My name is, you know. So when I think of that to now, so it's a huge a huge accomplishment. And then this is what we need to recognize all of our accomplishments, whether small or big,
Yeah, so, so that was my contemplation this past week was unbridled stuttering because I imagine riding a horse because we have limited control over the horse, but at least the bridle and the reins at least
Mhm.
it allows us to control it. I look at stuttering as that wild stallion, and we do have a bridle, we've got reins where we can manage it. But the unbridled is just there is none. Your arms are up in the air and you're just full gallop, letting it have its way. So that's how it's like the best way I can describe the concept that people are trying to convey when they say that they live that way. So
Mm.
And also what really surprised me was working on my presentation. For me to even ask the question, is overt stuttering an official therapy program? Somebody who says, I'm an overt stutterer, that's their speech therapy program. Is it a program,
how would you define an overt stutterer?
Somebody that stuttered, what did you use, unbridled stuttering? They just let it all hang out. They stutter. Whenever they want to, whoever they wanna talk to, and, whenever. So can that be a program, a speech therapy program? Can Covert stuttering be a speech therapy program? You know? All these sticks about I mean, they're fun. We have a laugh, but still, we could have some fun with all of them.